Okay, so here's part 2 of our conversation with Mark Knight, all about using video and social media to communicate better within your businesses.
The problem in safety isn't deviation, it's complexity.
Health and safety has gone mad.
Health and safety is trying to unpick having gone mad in the past.
There's no one solution and one problem. The problem is that we are looking for one solution.
Does the structure of the team allow them to flourish?
Feel safe enough to be uncomfortable.
The environment defines our behaviours.
People aren't the problem, they're the solution.
Rebranding Safety, crushing the stereotype. Brought to you by Riskfluent. What's up guys, welcome back to Rebranding Safety. Rebranding Safety is the YouTube channel and podcast doing exactly what it says on the tin. We're here to change the perception of health and safety and to challenge those health and safety gone mad practices. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button or the follow button or whatever button it is on whatever platform you are listening or watching us on. So you come back for part 2 of our conversation with Mark Knight, talking all about kind of video essentially. This guy's an absolute genius around video. If you're like, who's Mark Knight? Because you haven't listened to part 1, you were like that kind of weirdo that joins a show, you know, like season 3 in. You're like, dude, no wonder you don't know what's going on. You need to jump back to part 1 and work out what's going on. So go check out part 1 of our conversation with Mark Knight, and then you can come on back over to part 2. But without further ado, for those of you that have listened to part 1, before we get into the podcast, why don't you go check out our sponsors, DRM for mental health, well-being, online course, and Safepoint for all your lone working needs. And don't forget to buy yourself some merch at www.rebranding.safety. Otherwise, let's jump into our conversation, part 2 of our conversation with Mark Knight.
That same kind of videos that I was talking to you about, I remember that we paid for this director and we paid for this cameraman, and we paid for post edit and the equipment. And these two quite young lads turned up, all the gear, it was like proper pro stuff. And I was like, cool, these guys are going to be able to do some wicked stuff. And there was just no imagination from this director. There was nothing. I was essentially the director, and I think if I didn't have the enthusiasm and the very slight, compared to him, the very slight knowledge of making videos from what I do in my spare time, I think anyone else would have just shut down. They'd have been like, well, what do you want us to do? There was even a point where we'd gone in this hallway to do this video, and the walls were like nearly luminous yellow. And then I remember from the research I'd done with my videos, the yellow is not a great color for videos. So I'm like, right, maybe let's find it. I said to the director, maybe we should find another area to do this, because this yellow is not going to come out great on the camera, is it? I don't know. If you got, like, what do you think? And he was like, yeah, if you want. And I was just like, right. Okay, cool. So we went and looked to this other area, and the other hallways were like even worse colors, like a dark pink, and it was just yellow turned out to be the best color we had. But there was just no imagination. It was just like, right, what do you want? And I'm like, oh, maybe we could. I'm the one throwing ideas at him, like maybe you could do like a pan shot of this room or this area or that device or whatever. And he's like, yeah, cool. And I'm just like, maybe you could like zoom in. And he's like, yeah, okay. And I'm just like, dude, how much are we paying for you to come here? Like, how much of it? So, and then that brings me to my question: is how much of this is an emphasis on both sides? Like we've said about the client, essentially, from your point of view, the client, so me as a safety professional, has to be kind of comfortable with being vulnerable. They have to have a little bit of imagination with this stuff. They have to be flexible and imaginative, right? But then at the same time, I need from people like yourself to have a little bit of imagination as well, and be like, and I understand, you know, there's that old saying of like, here's what the client wants to pay and this is what they get versus what they want. I understand that, you know, but there's got to be some kind of like imagination from their side of things. I'm not just here to point and shoot a camera. I can think of some better ideas to help you communicate your message. I'm just a safety professional. I've got a message, but you're essentially the communications expert from that video point of view. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, how much has your industry got to kind of up their game as well?
Well, there's several things in what you've just said there that
I do that a lot.
I could ramble on about for ages. What happened to you there is that I'm presuming that what you've done is you've gone to a production company and you've been sold something by someone who ultimately will have nothing to do with the creation of it. So what they'll do is they'll then put a team together and go, oh, you're off filming this today. So what you're doing is you're disassociating the passion for the project to get it done correctly, I believe, by hiring in people who are not going to be completely bought into it because it's just a day job. It's just another health and safety video. What you need to do is you need to think of your video production supplier as a partner. They, as you said, that you don't need to maximize those skills. So you need to bring them into your fold and explain to them what you're trying to do. And then a good video production professional will then offer you solutions for how to best do that and how to best get the value that you require. I mean, I used to jobs, and we used to try and keep it to a bare minimum crew where you're having maybe on a shoot, in addition to the actors, you're probably having a crew of 5 people. That was a small crew. But that creates something. So you've spent a lot of time writing a script and putting all your effort into creating something fictional, and then you're going in and you're trying to create something in a very short time frame because you're trying to keep the costs down. Whereas if you were doing a drama properly, what you would have actors in and you'd have them rehearsing and you'd have them actually understanding their characters, and you'd spend a lot of time setting up cinematic shots. The thing is that when you're doing a corporate job, you just don't have that time. So you've put all this effort into creating a script, but then when you get there on the day, you've got so many things in your way that will actually allow you to create the perfect thing, namely time and money that just won't permit it, that you end up having to make and then it starts feeling a corporate film because you haven't got the time and the money to invest in it to make that product stand out and be like, oh, that's bang on the money there. If you want to spend more money, then you start doing it. But then at the same time, you're only getting this one film at the end of the day. So now I would seriously question whether you need to spend the money creating something anyway, and whether you need to spend the money having a lot of people recording and filming and putting a lot of equipment into it. I mean, when I go out on a shoot now, most jobs that I work on now, I will go out on my own. And I will understand what I can do on my own, because I can't do the best sound job and be the best cameraman and be coming up with all the ideas as a director perfectly. But what you need to do is understand how bits come together. So if you document for one day and you're just following people around and you're getting them to talk to camera in a very observational document style, that will probably need to be supplemented by a day where you actually do an interview with someone. And you sit down and you light them nicely and you get them to talk to you. Though that interview will then act as a backbone to anything that you're creating. And then you just piece bits around it to tell a story. And the options for that are limitless. I've sort of gone on a little bit off tangent there, haven't I?
No, I like it.
You're talking about the relationship. Is it the relationship between a client and a director?
To a point,
or
yeah. And I think where you were going with it is quite good actually, because I think if you look at some of the biggest names on YouTube now, and the two kind of people that come to my mind, one is Casey Neistat, just because primarily he's my guilty pleasure, and I absolutely love watching his stuff. Like, and whilst he is probably, is this huge filmmaker, like absolutely massive filmmaker, but so he's got that kind of technical understanding, knowledge and skills and equipment. I understand that, but the videos he creates are phenomenal. They're engaging, but actually when you sit and look at them, they're full of nothing. There's nothing in it. Every now and then he might kind of communicate a message, but essentially it's nothing. It's just, here's an advert for Casey Neistat. But yet there's one guy on his own doing what I think you've just nailed it, by he's just documenting every single day what he was when he was doing his vlogs, documenting every single day of his life. And then when he goes into post edit, he creates a story out of that. And I think there's so many times that people have said to him, how do you think of what to do? And he's said exactly what you've just said. I don't think. I just record my day and that's it. And the equipment he's using is a DSLR camera, granted a very expensive one, but DSLR camera, a Rode mic that sits on top of your camera, and his phone. They're like the main bits of equipment he uses. And then when he buys a new drone, he probably get about 20 episodes of drone footage. But that aside, it's like most of this stuff is simple. And then you look at Gary Vaynerchuk, who's huge on YouTube now, like him or lump him, or it doesn't really matter, but all he's doing, and that's his key message, exactly what you've just said, is don't create, document. So he just pays somebody to follow him around all day. And then don't get me wrong, he's probably got a massive edit team behind him, but they just chop all these little bits out, stuff from his phone, stuff from the podcast, stuff from it, and creates thousands of content. I think his message is like put 100 pieces of content out a day. Now imagine if you've got a big corporate business and you had the whole kind of head of team, the kind of corporate director team. You give them a basic camera, a basic kind of setup, a basic understanding of how to press play and record yourself, and just say, right, I just want to record yourself a couple of days a week. Off you go. Think how much amazing content you would get, amazing authentic content you would get, and your kind of employees now build a relationship with your board as well.
Yeah, I agree with that in theory. How I would slightly tweak that is that being able to make video now is easier than it's ever been, and the quality of it has just ramped up massively in a very short space of time. So you can create high quality images relatively easy. And that means there's a lot more videographers, video production facilities out there at the moment. From my personal point of view, because I did my years coming through the traditional way, and I've worked in lots of different mediums, that knowledge is something people who just pick up a camera will have. And that sort of allows me to understand what you're trying to do better than you ever will, because you haven't got 20 years of experience. But that attitude of picking the camera up and starting is definitely one that I would promote. And how I would do it for this, looking to just get involved with this and just experiment and what happens, is to do what you said. Use your phone to film some content. But how I would frame it is that I would document all your procedures and all your working practices. So that could be from how you put the bins out correctly in the kitchen to how you fit a manifold on the bottom of a train. Once you start documenting it, you can then create a library of resources that are almost like an induction manual for anyone who's starting the business. So it's like, new guy starts the business, doesn't know how to put on a specific piece of PPE. I'll just look at this video, it's in that folder over there. Everything is laid out, is there for you. You're basically creating your own resource that can be constantly updated, and it would cost you very little money as well. And it doesn't matter if the video isn't massively high quality though, or if it isn't up to a high standard of filmmaking, because it's just doing a very basic. It's going, this is how you do this task. You do this first, followed by that, by this. And you do that because of these reasons. There you go. That's a valuable piece of resource for your business that can be used time and time again.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think there's a definite massive value. And I think that was part of what I was trying to allude to when we were talking about that relationship between the two people, between the two kind of organizations. There was one kind of path I was going to go down there was, you know, like I've watched a couple of your videos, and one particular kind of sticks out in my mind was you've done like an incident case study for I think for a customer, and there's one shot that you put in that was where the camera is kind of, it looks like it's static, but static attached to the person running. I don't know why I acted out running then when I said running, but anyway, it's It's yeah. So you've got this kind of guy run it, and the only way I can describe it is exactly what I thought of when I first saw it. If anyone's like, my wife is a massive Guy Ritchie fan, like huge director Guy Ritchie, did like Sherlock Holmes, the new, what's it called, King Arthur, or whatever it's called, and no, is it King Arthur? I don't know. Anyway, the Sword in the Stone story. So the new one of that,
Yeah.
and he does that shot a lot, like where the camera is, it looks like it's fixed to the person, and it's quite a close-up shot of their face whilst they're running. And I remember watching that on Sherlock Holmes the first time and being like, wow, now that is I've never seen a shot like that before. That's amazing. And then when I watched it on your videos, I'm like, do you know what? I'm a massive fan of films and I'm a safety professional, and I don't think I would have thought of how to do that, or I would have thought of doing it. But even if I did think I'd love to do a shot like that, someone like me who's just essentially a video enthusiast would never be able to understand what equipment I need and how to physically do that. So there is that kind of connection that we need between the two worlds, isn't there? Is that somebody to have that imagination, be that me or you as the kind of the film expert, to say, hey, I watched this Guy Ritchie film the other day and there was this great shot where they were running. I was thinking maybe we could do that. And then you to go, or vice versa, but you to go, yes, we can do that. You need a jerry rig thing. I don't know what you would call it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that shot was done with what they call a snorri cam rig. And back when we did that, actually hire one. So we had to make one. So my attitude back in the day when I ran my corporate communications business and was making videos for lots of different companies was that every job that I did, I always wanted to push myself and almost give myself more skills so that I have more solutions. So that's trying out a new animation technique, or using a new piece of equipment, or creating a new shooting style that hasn't been seen before in that corporate environment. That's what we were trying to do. And it, as I've said earlier, it's like I treated it as my film school. It was essentially people were paying me to just go, right, let's be as creative as possible, and which was good because we created some good films. But now that I've done that, I now see that spending that amount of money on those types of productions and putting all your eggs in one basket with one film, you could get better value by allocating that money elsewhere. And admittedly, sometimes there will be a point where creating a big drama would be a good way of solving a problem. But in my experience, % of the time, documenting your business is a lot more effective way of spending that money. And it not only is it cheaper, but it gives you more. So you're getting more for less investment. But what you have to realize is that it's not a one-off strategy video. It's a long-term strategy that you need to think about. And if you're turning it into a long-term strategy, you need to have a video production partner. So you can do that by hiring someone into your business and saying, right, you're our new videographer, off you go. Again, the quality of person that you're going to get to do that depends on how much you're paying them. If you want someone who's fresh out of film school to come in and start running a business, you're very reliant on how proactive they are or how much possibility they've got. If you want to spend more money and bring someone in who's got a lot of credibility and who's got a lot of experience, you're going to be paying for that. The other option is that you hire different levels of videographers. So you hire a professional videographer who works on his own, or you hire a production company, or you hire a training company that's got a video arm to it. And all those have their pluses and minuses in terms of how much value they can give you. But from my experience, there aren't many people out there at the moment that work in video that understand the power of social video. And that is because they may say that they do social, but until a video maker has actually run his own social, done it for a period of time, understand that it's not even about making the video. Making video is like literally 5% of the job now. It's coming up with a strategy that effectively achieves your customers' goals. And then it's working out a distribution strategy, how to get that customer's audience to actually pay attention to what you're saying. So it's building brand, it's building audience, it's putting it in the right places where people are looking, it's doing collaborations, it's building connections with other people in your niche. And it's a whole new skill set, of which actually making the film is just a very small part, really.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a shameless sponsorship clip. Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt your awesome podcast. I'm sure you were getting well into it, but I want to talk to you about loan working. It's a challenge for all of us because 9 times out of 10, nothing goes wrong. But what I think we lack in loan working is having a little bit of a capacity to fail safe. If something goes wrong, you know, who knows that that worker is in trouble? Does anyone know? How do they know where you are? And is there any help coming? How do we communicate? Sometimes we can say, well, we'll just text them. And you know what? Texting them is probably a good idea. Having that kind of check-in for some things, like just popping into an office that we don't really use at the moment because we're all locked down or whatever, is probably a good solution. But if something did go wrong, a text is a really hard thing to do. And that's why I partnered up with this company called Safepoint to get you guys some discount, because I just love what they're doing. They're innovative, it's easy to use, they've got some extra kind of hardware pieces that you can buy and complement it, and they've got some really cool stuff in there, like this 3-word thing, where basically the app creates these 3 words, and those 3 words, when you communicate them to the emergency services, tells them exactly where you are, like pinpoint. So it's not like you're having to go, oh, I don't know, I was out on my bike and I took a left off of, I don't know the road. You know, that's not going to help anyone, is it? And that's why this 3-word thing is so cool. So it would be like sheep, lamb, cow. And you'll be like, I've got the 3-word thing. And they'll be like, okay, cool, what are the 3 words? Sheep, lamb, cow. Boom, we know where you are. We'll be there in 10 minutes. It's like, that is cool, man. And that's why we partnered up with them. So go check them out at safepointapp.com/rebranding safety. Use the code rebranding safety. If you sign up for the monthly plan, you get 10% off your first month. But if you sign up to the annual plan, you can get 10% off the entire year, off the entire first year, man, just from typing rebranding safety. And obviously, we get a little bit of a kickback so you can support your favorite podcast at the same time as nailing the risk of loan working. I'll let you get back into the podcast.
Yeah, I love that, and I think a lot of people, like most people that listen to this podcast, are obviously safety professionals. But I think most of them will probably be listening to what you're just saying, and I think maybe out of naivety or whatever, I don't know, will be thinking, well, building a brand and communicating to our customers, that's obviously something for the comms and for the comms and marketing team to do. It's nothing to do with me as a safety team. But the safety team within the business, depending on how big you are, has its own brand. Like you can't forget that we have a brand. People within our business have a perception of our team, and we have to have a positive brand. So in that question, you go, well, who's your customers? Well, hopefully most people within safety will be referring to their people that they're trying to help within the business as their internal customers. So it's like this thought process translates into every area of business. You've just got to take a step back and stop thinking of your traditional brand and customer perception, but actually start thinking of, actually, we do have customers wherever we are in the business. If you're a safety team or you're even a finance team, our customers are the people in the business. It doesn't matter. And we have a brand. You know, the finance team has a brand. Yeah, they're number crunchers. They only care about spreadsheets, and they'll try and cut corners wherever they can when it comes to money. You know, the safety team has a brand. We are here just to make your life painful. We just want to surround you in paperwork. That's what people think of us, but that's not what we are. So we have to, within our business, work out what people think of us and create constant, consistent communication to change that, which is exactly the message for YouTube. That's like any YouTube kind of tutorial will tell you: consistent and constant communication or content is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually easier to take this YouTube mindset and put it inside a business than it is to do it externally. So where I talk about talking to your audience, that might sound like marketing. So it's all about trying to find customers or whatever. That is harder than actually doing it internally, because with an internal, you already know who that audience is. It's your entire workforce, and you've probably got contact details for them. So you have their email addresses. They're all part of your intranet. You can talk to them through company social communication lines. So creating strategies for how you engage that audience becomes easier because you have all the data there already that you can analyze. So if you put out a video and you make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to engage with this piece of video, you can then see who has and who hasn't. And then you can start seeing, well, this segment in Sheffield is paying attention. Why aren't they paying attention? Is it because they feel overlooked? Right, next video, we're making this piece of content that's directly targeting the people who weren't paying attention. And then it's almost like creating sales funnels. If you use YouTube as a marketing tool, YouTube is sort of the entry level in sales funnel. What it is it's giving away free advice. It's top tips. It's best way to do this. How are you going to do that? And once people have gone, oh, that's really useful, I've got that. At the end of the film, it would be like, well, if you want more free stuff, come to my website where we want your email address, and then we want to target you with things that we think that you will like. You can remove all that crap if you're doing it for internal communication, because you've got their details. So all you then do is start targeting them until they start engaging with your message. And you can almost do it ticking people off a list. I've got Jenny in Surrey to engage today. Brilliant. Another one off, until everyone is buying into some part of what you were trying to create as part of your health and safety initiative. That was one of the main reasons why I decided to start focusing on health and safety, is because once you adopt the YouTube mindset that consistent, valuable content is the best way to engage an audience, literally it's so easy to ramp up. Because once you start making content and you work with a filmmaker or someone who shares that same mindset, the ideas for additional content will literally just steamroller. It's like a rolling stone gathers moss. It literally, people will become more engaged with it. They'll start throwing ideas into it. They'll be like, oh, we're doing this new idea or health and safety thing at a plant down here. Why don't you come and see us for the day? Brilliant. It's just more content, more people talking about stuff. And once you start doing that for your internal audience, because safety isn't really a commodity, safety, we pretty much want to resources that promote safety to your employees. Why wouldn't those same messages be valuable to people who don't work for you? I mean, this trying to benefit society angle, like, or even for big companies that have health and safety issues, like, I don't know, your Scottish and Southern Energies or your Balfour Beatties, or these people that are dealing in volume. Just creating that type of content will have an audience outside of your business anyway, because people are interested in that type of stuff. People are interested in big industrial stuff. They're interested in innovation in technology and manufacturing and all these different things. Like Richard Hammond had that TV show on just a couple of months ago where it was like all the biggest things, like the biggest dam in the world, or the new Tottenham Hotspur football, the longest bar in Europe. People are interested in that kind of crap. If you are running a big energy company and you're in charge of health and safety, you'll probably have wind farms, you'll have hydroelectric dams, you'll have people doing lighting services, you'll have all realm of things that it's just most people in the business wouldn't be aware of, but people outside of the business would also find it interesting. I mean, you can't move on TV these days for not having a happening inside Premier Inn or Great Western Hotel or all these different businesses that just let camera crews in. You can now do that yourself without having to get a huge TV crew in. You can create your own team and talk to people about things that are interesting or pertinent to your business, because there is always an audience for it.
Do you think that we'll start to see more kind of internal video teams coming in? Like, do you think we'll start to see, like you said earlier, employing people that are specialists in maybe filmmaking or something, someone like yourself, you know, to say, right, Mark, we're going to employ you permanently to be, you know, head of video or something like that? Do you know what I mean? Do you think we'll start to see stuff like that, or do you think it will still be client and customer?
I think that then comes just the quality of people involved. So lots of companies already have internal videographers, people that will make a lot of social content. I went to a job interview for one of those a couple of years back. What they're looking to do is they're looking to pay a set amount. To pay that the amount that they're willing to pay, you can't afford someone who's got a vast amount of it. So you're going to have to take a chance on someone who has got no back catalogue as such. He might show promise, or she might show promise, but you're sort of taking a risk there. You're sort of going, well, if we hire someone in, they can just do it. But being a filmmaker and a YouTuber is a lot of skills. It's planning, it's shooting, it's editing, it's sound design, and that's just the faking element of it. You've got creating social platforms. So you then need to have an understanding of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all the new ones that are coming out. You sort of have to be multi-skilled in order to be massively effective. That's why Gary Vee mentioned, he would say, if you were hiring a team into a business, what you would do is you would have someone who dealt with the numbers, an analyst, in order to streamline what you're trying to do. So whether that's marketing or whether it's analyzing safety data, or I don't know, you then have someone who writes copy. So someone who writes all the blurbs, who basically does all the optimization so that your content turns up in SEO searches, and they are able to write in a tone of voice for the social platform whilst also retaining the voice of your brand. And then you need a video maker. So the package fee is 3 people. Yeah, I mean, that would be a way to go. But as I mentioned earlier, you need to have some credibility. And what I found is that making YouTube content and doing it effectively and putting it out consistently is a full-time, as you've probably in your journey. Yeah, it's hard to put out consistent content. And you have to have a passion for it. If you are an employee paid to do something, maintaining the passion for it and maintaining that drive to be as best as you can is insanely difficult. That's why successful YouTubers are individuals who follow their individual, whether it's gaming, whether it's woodworking, whether it's knitting, that is their passion, and they want to share that and turn it into a lifestyle. So in order to make a video strategy work for a health and safety person, you have to have someone who's in charge of health and safety, who is a health and safety nerd almost. They have to be ultimately massively passionate about it, because it will be all consuming. And then what you have to do, go, right, I'm passionate about it, but I'm not a filmmaker. I then need to find a partner who can guide me and point my passion in the right direction to almost take me on this journey to allow me to achieve my goal. So in health and safety, if that is to be number 1 in your sector or the #1 safest company or have no lost time injury, whatever the goal, filmmakers should be there to offer solutions to a goal to be achieved. That's how I think it would work best. Hiring people to do a job is quite often not going to get you what you want, I think.
No, I think that makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. And we are coming up to about an hour. And if I'm honest, I think the internet is starting to struggle because you only just started to go a little bit towards the end of that. So a little bit of editing needed from my side towards the end. So I think the internet's had enough by the looks of it, and I don't want to push it. But that's spot on, mate. And I think there's so much that you've said there that we can all take away from that. And I think definitely we've kind of communicated that there's a real power to video, isn't there? Like there's a real kind of potential to get any message out there, essentially. But if anyone kind of listening to this and they're thinking, oh, do you know what, I want to partner up with Mark and move forward, let's give yourself a little plug and anything else that you want to plug before the internet caves in.
Yeah, I mean, video is changing massively. I think there's a lot of new ways of doing stuff. If you want to check out what I'm doing, youtube.com/Mark Knight Films for my YouTube channel. If you want to see my old corporate world, the work that I used to make corporate clients, which quite a lot of it was health and safety, my website is markknightfilms.co.uk. So Mark with a K in the middle, K for Knight, films.co.uk. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. If anyone's got any questions, I'm always happy to give free advice and advise on the best way of doing things. It's just changing the mentality. If you were to build a house, you'd go to an architect, wouldn't you? An architect would then offer you what you wanted to create. That's how you need to look at a filmmaker. Film someone who can help you achieve your goal. But it needs to be a collaborative thing. It doesn't work on a one-off basis. And it's just accepting that, the internet's not going anywhere. Social channels aren't going anywhere. It's time to adopt it as part of your communication strategy. So that's my plug done.
Love that.
Thanks very much, Jay.
That's all right, mate. Great plug. Like very well finished there. Was that practiced or is that just off the hoof? Because that was flawless.
As I said, I don't script anything. It's just off the cuff.
Just pure passion. I like that. Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking it's not just the internet that's going to cave in. It might be my like sweat pores. It's really hot, isn't it? Right, mate. I'll let you go.
Okay, guys. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. Do you think you could utilize like YouTube channels and videos within your business more? I think I could. I think we all could. I think video is such a beautiful medium how to communicate within our business. And even if you're doing it in other ways, like that doesn't mean you should replace it with video. Like don't replace the email with video, but it's about having all these different tangents. Remember when you probably got taught as a trainer, like, and you're thinking, well, what about all these different learning styles? Those kind of learning styles still apply to communication as well. So I really do think we should listen to this with like that open mind, and we should really challenge the way we think and try to bring video into what we do a bit more. Even if it's just, say, we're coming to the tail end of coronavirus now, and well, hopefully we're probably miles away till we fix this, but you're probably starting to go back to work now, and if you haven't already, maybe you've changed the layout of your workspace, or you've got some rules or some kind of tape on the floor or one-way systems. Get your camera, get your phone, walk round and show people what they're expecting. So when they get there, it's not a shock. Yeah, that's a real simple way of how to use video. Yeah, do your weekly update that you might give the team is normally on this massive document. You could still do the document and then just summarize it on video and send that out to everyone as well. Maybe go for like a internal social media. Facebook offer, I think it's called Workspace. It's like an internal social media, so obviously you have to pay for that. So you go check something like that out as well. Are you using video? Are you using social media in your workplace to communicate stuff? If you are, let us know in the comments below so we can all kind of collaborate and help each other. Otherwise, people, I'll catch you in the next podcast. Safe.